If you guys just watched the value of your ULTY drop significantly on Friday, and you're wondering, is this thing ever going to get back to $6? How could it get to $6? What's the math behind that? Well, guess what? I've done some back of the envelope calculations to figure it out for you. So if you don't mind, come along on this walk with me where we're going to talk about ULTY, how it gets to $6, what the 100% tariffs mean for the underlying stocks, what the critical software export controls might mean for some of the ULTY holdings. We're going to cover all of that and a lot more on this walk. It's a little bit chilly. It seems appropriate that it's a cold morning to be talking after a big market sell-off like that. So let's take a walk and talk about ULTY. So how do we get to $6 ULTY? That's what people want to know. Is it even realistic to imagine ULTY at $6? Let's talk about it. Right now, ULTY trades at about $5.31 a share. And a move to $6 would be ULTY moving up about 69 or 70 cents. What is that in percentage terms? Well, it's actually 13%. So can ULTY move up 13%? It's done it before, absolutely. But what is the math to get ULTY to $6? If it needs to move up 70 cents, then it needs to move up 10 cents a day for 7 days in a row, which actually doesn't sound impossible, but you need a bull market to do that, because 10 cents a day on ULTY from 531 to 541 is 1.88% move in one day. But the nice thing is that from 541 to 551, the move is only about 1.85%. And then after you've had a few of those days, on day 7, if ULTY moves from 591 to 601, that 10-cent move is only 1.5%. So if ULTY keeps moving up 10 cents per day, the move required to get to $6 becomes less in percentage terms. Now, 10-cent moves a day or 1.8% moves a day is probably not realistic. So what about ULTY moving up 5 cents per day? Well, in that scenario, it would take 14 days for ULTY to get to $6 a share, 14 trading days. So the move from 531 to 536 is a 0.94% move. And the move from 596 to $6 is only a 0.67% move. So yeah, ULTY does need to move up about 13% from where it is now to get to $6 a share. It's not going to do that in a week, not 2 weeks, not 3 weeks, but it's very doable to do it probably over a quarter, maybe over 2 quarters. And if it's trending in the right direction and you're still collecting your distributions, which are about 1%, sometimes 1.5% per week, I could happily sit on ULTY doing that. It doesn't need to move up fast. I just want it to move up. I'm sure we all do. And I want to be clear, I'm not making a price prediction on ULTY saying it's going to go to $6, but I think it's possible. I don't have tomorrow's Wall Street Journal, but what I do have are past charts, which of course don't predict future charts, but it tells us what's happened before. And last time tariffs were announced, which was early April, around April 8th, ULTY sank to a low of about $5.40 per share. And about 36 days later, on May 25th, ULTY reached a high of about $6.33 per share. So that was basically a 70-cent move that took 36 days. And that was a 17% increase in the price of ULTY. So it's actually quite doable to get to $6, but it would require what happened before to happen again, which was a pause on the tariffs and markets expecting, tariff relief. So if we were to get those things, I think it might be reasonable to expect ULTY to react in a similar way. But you guys all know the disclosures about past performance not predicting future success. So I don't want to say that's going to happen. I don't want to be overly optimistic there. All I want to see is for ULTY to be fairly flat, stable, and collect that Friday dividend, which is actually going to be moving now to earlier in the week, next week. So I believe it's moving to a Wednesday, but I might be off. Now, one question people might have is this the bottom of ULTY, or could it fall further? Well, I think it could fall further, and we saw that in the after hours trading. You know, at 4 p.m. Eastern time at market close, ULTY was 531, and the few hours that it traded after, it went to 514 because of all the underlying holdings continuing to be sold off. So that could absolutely happen when the stock market opens on Monday. There could be further sell-offs. Now, Friday was a bloodbath for all the markets. And what actually caused that? Well, two announcements. One was a 100% tariff, an additional 100% on all the goods imported from China. The second was export controls on critical software. Now, I don't think critical software has yet been defined, but let's take a look at the ULTY portfolio and see which stocks might be affected. So of those stocks in there, which ones are actually importing goods from China? Not Opendoor, not CoreWeave, not MP Materials, that's the only stock that went up, not Rocket Companies, not Affirm, not Upstart. Just, you get the idea. There are a lot of technology service stocks in the ULTY portfolio that ideally and probably are not affected by a 100% tariff on Chinese goods. I mean, is Strategy buying goods off Temu? So that additional 100% tariff should probably not affect the underlying holdings of ULTY too much. Now, they will affect other stocks, and when other stocks go down, you know, the whole market goes down. If the market's in a selling mood, then they'll sell regardless of what stocks are affected or not. But what about the critical software? That one is interesting because I do think there are a few stocks that are going to be affected. And let's talk about those. It's very possible that Palantir, which is a contractor to the government and to the US military specifically and Department of Defense, they could be affected. But I don't think they were actually going to be selling their technology to Chinese companies. I think that restriction probably was already in place, but I'm not 100% sure. I could be wrong there. It's also possible that CoreWeave could be affected by export controls. But again, how many of CoreWeave's customers are Chinese? The reason I say CoreWeave is they package up AI hardware from NVIDIA and they sell it as a cloud-based service to companies like Facebook. CoreWeave just did a $14.2 billion deal for Facebook or Meta to use their cloud-based AI services. I don't think the US wants China to use its AI technology, or at least copy it. But what about the other stocks? Like, is SoundHound a critical software? Well, their most recent news release where they talked about their customer was Red Lobster. And SoundHound was going to be the automated voice answering service for Red Lobster phone orders. So are they critical? Gee, I hope not. I do think QUBT, Rigetti, those might fall under the critical software umbrella, even though I don't think they're strictly software. They're actually quantum computers, so they could be affected. But remember, Rigetti already had a deal with the US Air Force. And it seems unlikely that a company that sells to the US Air Force would also be allowed to sell to Chinese companies, or at least there might be some vetting there. Who knows? Now, as for QUBT, remember they only had $61,000 of sales in Q2. So it's kind of unlikely as well that they were going to be selling to Chinese companies. And so what about Affirm, which does buy now, pay later, or even Opendoor? I don't think those should be really affected by the critical software export control. It just seems a little bit unlikely that that would be going out to China or to even other countries. But, a lot of this is still unfolding. So the point I'm trying to make is the markets went down on that news. Like that news about the Chinese tariffs and the export controls on critical software is exactly what drove the sell-off in the markets. But was that an overreaction in the stocks held by ULTY? I kind of think so, because I don't know how many of those are really going to be affected by that directly. There could be indirect effects, but directly affected, it seems somewhat unlikely. So the takeaway from this video is that the week itself was good for 4 out of the 5 days. Friday was terrible, but ULTY was doing fine the first 4 days. And Friday was a totally news-driven sell-off. The recovery will also probably be news-driven if tariffs are canceled or if the export controls on critical software are removed. So that's really ULTY Weekly Wrap. We will see what happens next week. As always, I'm going to keep you guys updated. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for coming along this cold, chilly walk with me. But it feels good to be out here in the morning, kind of processing what just happened in the markets. Appreciate you guys watching, as always, the returning viewers, the new viewers. It's great to see comments, likes, and subscribes. The engagement is awesome to see. Thanks, everyone, and see you on another walk.